Hi guys, this is Raju Rahman from Tectonic. Dragon Touch, a company to be honest I've not really heard of before this, asked me if I could review their Dragon Touch K10 Android tablet. When I looked at the specs, especially the 2GB of RAM, it did initially put me off. Looking into the company, I can see one of their aims is to produce affordable electronics, and the fact that this tablet sells for around 100 quid, relatively that's certainly affordable. So in an effort to find out if it's even worth spending that on a tablet at this range, I tested it out for a few weeks, and if you're interested in finding out what that was like, keep watching. Here we have the box. It's well designed, nothing over the top, nice and simple. It's a little worrying when you have to point out the tablet has a HD screen right there on the box. It's a given that in 2020 any tablet will have a HD screen, but I guess because this is a budget tablet, they want you to know they're not skimping out. Anyways, moving on, sliding off the cover and then removing the top of the box and removing a few more things reveals the tablet itself. There's plastic on top of the screen with some instructions. Have a read of that if you want. I'm pretty confident I know how to turn the tablet on, so off you go. Looks like there's some bubbles here on the screen protector. Tempted me to rip it off completely, but I'm glad I wasn't able to. Some plastic around the back. Putting the tablet aside, let's see what else is in the box. You got a 3-pin UK power plug, a USB-A to micro USB cable. Come on guys. Let's say bye-bye to these things. USB-C would have been more preferable. There's a warranty card, good to know you get 2 years of that, and finally the user manual. So back to the tablet. You've got a 2 megapixel front facing camera, around the back an 8 megapixel camera complete with an LED flash. Here on the right hand side you've got a 3.5mm headphone jack, the volume rocker, power button and reset. Here you have the cover for the micro SD card slot. The cover does feel a little flimsy. Taking it off also reveals what seems like dual SIM card slots. The tablet supports a max micro SD card capacity of 128GB. On the top right of the K10 you've got a micro USB port, and just next to that a micro HDMI port. Going back to the back of the tablet, you can see the Dragon Touch branding and what seems like dual speakers around the bottom. The back of the tablet is actually made of metal, it's cold to the touch. I thought the whole thing would be plastic, so that's a pleasant surprise. Of course, the top and bottom strips are still plastic, as is the rest of the body, including the front screen. Hence the reason I'm glad I didn't remove the factory installed screen protector. As you can see, this screen protector loves fingerprints, but leave it on unless you want to scratch up that screen. It does feel a little bulky in the hand, being 1cm thick, and even though it weighs 920 grams, it doesn't feel too heavy. When you're holding this tablet, you can tell it's a budget tablet. There's no getting away from that, but don't get me wrong, it's still better than what I expected. Let's quickly go through some of the specifications before moving on to the rest of the review. It's got a 10.1 inch IPS display with 1280 by 800 resolution, an 8 megapixel rear facing camera, a 2 megapixel front facing camera, 32GB of internal storage, 2GB of RAM, a quad-core CPU running at 1.3 GHz, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi 802.11b, GN and AC. No Wi-Fi 6 here, but what did you expect? Also, one thing that Dragon Touch likes to point out is that when it comes to Wi-Fi, this device also supports the 5 GHz band. That's certainly a good thing if you want to get better speeds from your wireless connection. Finally, you have a 5000 mAh battery and GPS too. The 10.1 inch IPS display isn't full HD with its 1280 by 800 resolution. At just slightly above 720p, it's good enough for consuming content on Netflix and YouTube. It's obviously not mind-blowing in any way. You don't have to be a pixel peeper to see that the pixel density is really low at just 213 ppi. It may not be super crisp or sharp, but it's hard to complain for too long considering the price of this tablet. The brightness levels are very good, text is clear enough and easy to read, and viewing angles are pretty good too. Also, another thing that's a little odd is the display refresh rate. I thought it would be 60Hz, but apparently it's 55Hz, at least according to what Inware is showing. In terms of software, the tablet is running on Android 9.0, aka Android Pie. There's no fancy skin running on top. They pretty much stuck to something close to stock vanilla. no bloatware whatsoever, so that's a good thing. All that means is the software doesn't slow down the tablet. Considering this is a budget tablet, it was a wise choice to keep the software as light as possible. But don't forget, this is an Android tablet with access to all the Google apps, including the Play Store, so you've got access to tons of applications and games. As long as you don't have too many applications open in the background, and remember to clear applications you're not using, browsing the web or even scrolling through the catalogue of movies and TV shows on Netflix isn't too bad, but you'll definitely notice some choppiness. The 55Hz refresh rate obviously doesn't help alleviate the issue either, so it's not going to be a completely smooth experience, but it's something you can live with. Opening applications isn't super snappy, but it's not super slow either, and things like switching from one video to another on YouTube is a little slow, especially when trying to load the other elements, but once the video is playing, it plays smoothly without any issues. Multitasking isn't something you'd expect to work well when you've only got 2GB of RAM, but it seems to be fine as long as you're not trying to use resource-hungry applications. You can see I'm using both YouTube and the Chrome browser side by side here. It's working perfectly. Whilst the 1.3 GHz quad-core processor and 2GB of RAM is good enough for basic tasks, it goes without saying that you're bound to run into a few performance issues with lots of games. For instance, when I tested COD with the K10, the frame rate was really low, graphics looked terrible, and it was so laggy it was just unplayable. To be honest, I'm surprised that it ran at all, but the performance was exactly what I expected. This tablet isn't made for games like these or any game that demands a lot from your device. While we're on the subject of demanding games, services like Stadia and Xbox Game Pass were made so that gamers could play the latest games without the need for expensive hardware. As you're just streaming the game, you should theoretically just need good internet speed. So I tested the K10 with Xbox Game Pass, and although it took around 40 seconds for the app to launch, once it did, the K10 was able to play all the games that I tried. Games like Angry Birds and Candy Crush ran perfectly on the K10, so more casual, less graphically intensive games are the way to go with this tablet. As long as you don't try and push it too hard and taper your expectations, it does a pretty good job. I was quite surprised that I was able to play Hungry Shark without many hiccups, so gaming is something you'll definitely be able to do with the K10, just don't expect every single game to work great. When it comes to the cameras, who really cares about cameras on a tablet? Even the more expensive Android tablets don't have great cameras. But if you have to know, the cameras on this tablet aren't great even from a tablet perspective. Low light shots are bad, they're very dark and lack detail. Pictures taken outside during the day are kind of okay. They're not too bad compared to the pictures I took with the Galaxy Tab S5e. Video also isn't that great, it lacks in vibrance and clarity. Certain things are overexposed, but to be honest I feel I'm being a bit too hard with the K10. Look, it costs £100. It's a tablet and it can take pictures and record video. As I mentioned earlier, no one really cares about the cameras on a tablet, I certainly don't. But what we all do care about, or at least should care about, is definitely the speakers. Let's not beat around the bush, it's pretty bad. The max volume isn't loud at all, you get a max dB of 90.8. And I could have tolerated that had the quality of the sound been better. It sounds very tinny. The speakers remind me of those singing, musical birthday cards I got a while ago. It's completely flat. Fortunately, the tablet does come with a 3.5mm standard headphone jack and Bluetooth, so you'll want to make use of some wired or wireless headphones to get a better audio experience. The K10 comes with a 5000 mAh battery, which Dragon Touch state should give you over 10 hours of watching media and gaming. My testing of the tablet suggested that statement isn't completely accurate, but it's close enough. I left a live TV channel streaming on YouTube. After 7 hours of continuous streaming, the K10 had 6% of battery life left, so there's definitely enough juice in this tablet to watch around 3 to 4 movies. As for charging time, it took just slightly over 2 hours for it to go from 6% to 98%, which is pretty good. So overall, do I recommend this tablet? Well, it depends. If you got the money to spend, then of course not. You should be getting a higher end tablet. Why are you even watching this video? But if you're strapped for cash and it's either a budget tablet or nothing, then the K10 will do the job. It's fast enough. It does most of the things you need it to do without any issues. Browsing the web, consuming media, and although not all games, it can run most casual games fairly well. Basically, you can do all the things most people do on a tablet. Yes, it's not as fast as a more expensive tablet, and that's to be expected. But like I said before, it's fast enough. During my initial use of the K10, I thought I wouldn't be able to recommend this to anyone. The speakers aren't great, the display isn't amazing, performance isn't out of this world, but the more I use it, the more I realize it does what it intends to do. Everything you need it to do, it just works well enough, and those are the key words. If you're someone who needs a tablet, don't have a lot of money to spend, or if you want to get a first time tablet for a child, then yes, I do highly recommend this tablet. This has been Raju Rahman from Tectonic. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, please subscribe and like. That would really help me out. And don't forget to check out these other videos too.